Today we have a special guest on BW Dialogue. He's somebody who doesn't really need an introduction. And I must tell you, when I was an engineering student, I had the good pleasure of doing my summer internship with CDOT, which he set up. He may not know it, but I want to surprise it. And somebody who doesn't really need an introduction, but as is customary, let me introduce him. Mr. Sam Pitroda is a thinker. He's a telecom inventor. He's a public policy creator. He's an entrepreneur. He runs a think tank. He's a very prolific author. And he's also dabbled in politics in terms of giving the right policy framework with the party that he advises. I last met him 3 years back in West Asia. We met in Bahrain, where there was the NRI congregation was happening, and he was very much there. So let me welcome Mr. Sam Pitroda. And the context of our conversation is,
thank you.
Since you're most welcome, and it's a pleasure to host you, Mr. Pitroda. And the context of the conversation, his latest book, Redesign the World. And he's made a clarion call to kind of redesign this world. So we'll hear from him why this book now, what's in this book, and we'll go through all the chapters. And he started the book with a quote from Robert Kennedy, and we'll talk to him about that. The book has a foreword and a recommendation by the former Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and he's given a very big thumbs up to the book, because he says that Mr. Sam Pitroda is somebody who is a deep thinker. He's had a deep impact on policy. He understands the world, and he has great technical knowledge. So he's really, through his eyes, if we see what happens in the future, we can really redesign the world. So let me start by asking you, Mr. Pitroda, how have been the last 16 months for you, especially both personally and professionally? And I would also like to add on, I would like to know, how has it been to watch India from Chicago in the last 7 weeks? And did you feel helpless? We'd like to know what you felt over the last 16 months and especially last 7 weeks.
On May 2nd, I was traveling to Kansas. And when I landed home, my children called me and said, "Dad, Corona crisis is going to be very serious. So please stop traveling." We decided as a result that we will watch for a while and just stay home. That turned out to be about 16 months. For 16 months, my wife and I essentially didn't leave our house. Groceries were delivered. We just stayed home, didn't meet anybody. We were constantly on Zoom, FaceTime, video conferences, phone calls. And in the process, I decided to write this book. This book had been on my mind for 5-7 years. And this gave me a chance to focus, to do some research, read some additional material, put my thoughts together, and really get it done. Writing a book is a fairly complex and painful process. It is like putting a puzzle together, and you constantly want to change. My first draft turned out to be 450 pages, and my biggest challenge was to really cut it down to 250. In the process, I always feel that I've eliminated something that was very important, more important than what I have added. But finally, with good support from Penguin, few friends, I could wrap it up and let it go. It's out there. I'm sure it will get different reviews from different people, but at least I have been able to convey my thoughts, communicate my concerns, and now it's in public domain. So the book is titled Redesign the World, a global call to action. It is published by Penguin in India It is available on all online platforms, Amazon, Google, Apple, and others. It is published in US. It is published in UK. It is being translated in Spanish, Gujarati, Marathi, and few other Indian languages. So I look forward to spending next few months on taking the message out to large number of people and see if we can get young people excited about a big change. Because the world was last designed at the time I was born. I was born in 1942 in British Raj. And lots of things have happened after that. Mainly the rise of technology, rise of inequality has been a main concern to all of us. When I look at the design, I realize that a lot has been accomplished in the last 75 years. Rule of law has been established, peace has prevailed, prosperity has increased, longevity has increased, poverty has decreased, but at the same time, there are lots of challenges related to environment, hunger, poverty, inequality, violence. And I believe that design cannot work in a hyper-connected world. Today, we are all connected. All 7.8 billion people are connected, essentially. How do we use this connectivity to take human civilization to the next level is the question. We can always use this connectivity to do the same things we have been doing for the last 70 years. Maybe do it a little better. Maybe do it a little faster. Do it cheaper. But the real challenge is not that. The real challenge is how do we create a world which is better for a large number of people at the bottom of the economic pyramid? You mentioned the quote from Bobby Kennedy. Similarly, there is a quote from Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes, and Bobby, I don't want to interrupt you, but this is a speech that he gave at the University of Kansas in March 1968. And, I do want to ask you a specific question from that speech, but after you finish.
Okay.
Go on, sir.
So, basically, the message is we got to lift everybody. Just creating more billionaires is not going to solve world's problems. Just having more businesses, taking them public, making money is okay for few. But how do we use this hyperconnectivity to lift all boats? And that's what the book is about. Because I believe, from my observation, 7 important things happened in the last 70 years that forced me to think about things differently. First, decolonization led by Mahatma Gandhi, which decolonized the entire world in 25 years. Then rise of China, fall of Soviet Union and Berlin Wall. The rise of technology, which has essentially become pervasive. Along with that, rise of inequality. 9/11 in response to a unipolar world. And then finally, Corona crisis. Corona crisis really hit the nail. Corona crisis says we are all interconnected, interdependent, interwoven. Nothing can be separated. Corona cannot distinguish between rich and poor, young and old, urban, rural. Everything in this world is connected. What happens in Brazil affects India. So when many people in India say this is an Indian challenge and nobody should interfere, I think that's the old paradigm. New paradigm is there is nothing that doesn't affect other person in the world. Poverty in India is not just the problem of Indian subcontinent. It is a global challenge. Africa is not just the African challenge. It's a global challenge. So I think the fact that we are all interconnected, interwoven, we got to look at things very differently. We can't be selfish. We cannot isolate. And these are the challenges that I tried to address in the book. Your second part of the question was...
And in your opening...
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, go on. On the last 7 weeks in India.
Yes. So your second part of question was about last few weeks in India. Well, like all of you, all of my family members, friends, we are all concerned about India. No matter where we are, no matter who we are. When we see this kind of situation in a country where people are dying because of lack of oxygen, poor logistics, poor facilities, overcrowded funerals, it affects humanity. It affects every person. And it's depressing. It is of a great concern to everybody. I hope things improve soon. My condolences to all those who lost their family and friends in this crisis. I myself lost 6 of my close relatives, my oldest sister, daughter, and my 5 cousin brothers and sisters in Gujarat and 2 in Raipur. So I know what it means to go through this pain. And my sympathies are with all of us. And this is not easy. And it's going to take some time to recover these wounds. These are deep, deep wounds that perhaps could have been avoided. We are in a crisis based on what I have seen in the last 6-7 weeks. I appreciate all the help people have given, especially medical professionals, voluntary agencies. Good has come out of large number of people in India who have come to help people, support them. There are always some cases of misuse, corruption, and all that. But overall, large number of people have shown support to the local community. So we appreciate all that. And that's the view from distance of last 7 weeks.
Absolutely. Now I want to go back to when I was reading the book, the speech by Robert Kennedy is very powerful. And you talk about the poverty of satisfaction. And even in the opening remarks, you talk about how we've tolerated it for too long, right? And that's what afflicts us all. That's what you say. Build on this poverty of satisfaction, though. In your opening remarks, you said that we're all interconnected. So we have to, and there is a chapter on inclusion, and we'll come to that. But build on this concept of poverty of satisfaction, and then we'll dive into the chapters.
See, we all come here with nothing, and we all go back with nothing. Life is a journey full of experiences, roller coaster ride. People come and go. The key is how you feel inside. Key is your own experiences. And life is not about being very rich, because you can't take anything with you. To live a good life, you don't need much. But to live a good life, you also need to make sure that others also live a good life. In a sea of poverty, island of affluence doesn't help. So you have to really worry about fulfillment. What makes you happy? Giving helping hand is more satisfying than stealing from somebody, hurting somebody. To me, values are very important. What I believe in, what I do every day, how I treat people, because that gives me comfort and sleep at night. If I did something wrong, even by accident, it hurts me more so than it hurts other person. It all depends on how you look at life. I believe as human beings, we are empowered and equipped to take care of others. And we should use that to really extend our help to others so that they also get lifted from poverty, hunger. And I think it's just human to think of others. Without community, there is no life. Community is key to all social activity. And what kind of community we build around us? We can't shield ourselves, lock it up, and isolate. And that's what Robert Kennedy quotes talks about. That's what Gandhiji's quote talks about. Life is not about top of the pyramid. Life is all about bottom of the pyramid. Unfortunately, all over the world, we also have top-down approach to development and not bottom-up approach, hoping that there will be trickle-down effect. It hasn't happened. It's not happening. I mean, look at the COVID situation. Rich became much richer during COVID period, and poor became poorer.
The gap widened.
Gap has been widened. Why is that? Today, poor need help. Rich don't need help. Whether their wealth went from 20 billion to 30 billion, fine, it's great for them. And I'm sure, they are happy and more power to them. But what does it mean to the society? And I think these are the questions which has sort of a moral ground. If you agree with certain moral standards, we have something to talk about. If you don't agree with those moral standards, we have no discussion.
Absolutely. And accepting that there is, you have a chapter on inclusion, which is the 4th chapter. You already talked about the tipping points, which are the 2nd chapter. And you started with saying, the world was last designed when I was born, which is almost the Second World War, which was the first world
design. I didn't include this, but that design gave birth to UN, World Bank, NATO, WTO, WHO, GDP, GNP. That design was based on democracy, human rights, capitalism, consumption, and military. That design did a lot of good, as I said earlier. But that design has outlived its utility. Democracy hasn't reached everywhere. Human rights have not provided human needs. It doesn't work for everybody. It works for very few. It's a good idea. But how do you modify capitalism so that it works for a large number of people? Consumption has really created a lot of environmental blunders. Consumption for whom? Who is consuming all this? What is the difference between want and need? And military. Why are we spending $2 trillion a year on military to fight whom? Each other? What does it mean to have global fights and nuclear warheads and killing millions of people here or there or anywhere else? I think we have matured to a point as a civilization now that we can sit across table collectively and resolve our conflicts.
Absolutely.
I think there is enough good in public to be able to see what is right, what is wrong. And to show your power, you don't need to build warheads. And I think that has to change. In 75 years, if we haven't learned that, it is time for us to rethink through. And the war of tomorrow is not going to be fought by nuclear warheads or machine guns or tanks. It'll be fought over cyberspace. It'll be little robots and it'll be cybersecurity. And you see what is going on in the world. In that kind of a world, what does it mean to have military? I think these are very fundamental questions. And unfortunately, those who are in position of power don't want to change because they are all milking the system anyway. And those who want change are not in a position of power to influence any decision making.
Incumbents always want status quo.
Absolutely. You know, I used to tell this to Dhirubhai Ambani on and off as friend, that part of the challenge in India is those who can give want to take more. And those who want to give don't have much to give.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it is funny. I mean, I do watch a lot of Western media, consume Western media, and luckily I know about you for more than 3 decades. I met you, you may or may not remember, at least 5 times in my journey as an entrepreneur, last being in Bari. But I want to tell you that I was watching this interview. I do watch Fareed's GPS every Sunday and never miss it, never. If I miss it, then I watch a recording.
Fareed is very good.
Yeah, and you know, he did an interview with Michael Lewis on his book, which was called Premonition, which was about America's response to COVID and how, of course, it was a patchwork kind of response, you know, because the president really didn't centralize the response. But in the book, he also talks about a certain medical leader, a lady, who actually warned about all this much ahead and she was not taken seriously. Sure, and then in that context, he mentioned that people who do these things are wired very differently. They're not wired for money. Because she could be anywhere and make more money. They're just wired very differently. I think we need to create that basis and recognition that people who are wired differently to do good are given more support. I mean, that's the point I'm trying to buttress, taking off from where you left off. So, by the way, you must read Michael Lewis's latest book. You'll enjoy it too.
I know about it. I've seen the program. Yes. I know about
coming
it.
Yeah, of course. Coming to redesigning the world and redesign the world, as you know, you put a call for action. Now, you talk a lot about inclusion. This chapter 4 is about inclusion, and you talk about how the gap has widened in every way, in terms of wealth, in terms of access. Even edutech, which is supposed to bridge the gap, actually has created a bigger gap because in large parts of the world, there's no access, there's no devices. You know, in Maharashtra, for the first 3 months in India, 90% of the school students that go to government schools had no access to any form of education. Slowly, that changed in the last few months. So give us, what is your panacea for inclusion? Give us a sense of what you advocate in the chapter.
See, first of all, technology is only an entry point. Technology is not going to solve all problems. Technology is a tool. So don't expect technology to create miracles, but technology is key. So if you really want to address inclusion, don't address from the viewpoint of computers and laptops and cell phones. Address from the viewpoint of how you treat people. Dignity, respect, equality are the key things. How do we treat our workers? How do people treat their drivers? How do people treat their colleague, younger associate, junior people? We are basically wired for hierarchical mindset and feudal mindset. We need networking and egalitarian approach in our work and at home. How do we network people? And that's what equality is all about. Don't judge people based on gender, race, religion, look. Just because somebody is handicapped doesn't mean they are not capable. Doesn't mean they are not human beings. And I think it has to come from within. It is not rocket science. Either you have it or you don't have it. You don't require a PhD, you don't require any technology, it doesn't require anything. I've seen highly educated people don't know how to deal with other human beings. And I've seen highly sort of illiterate people who are so good as human beings. So I think inclusion is all about treating other person with respect. You know, in the US yesterday, on television, there was this conversation about massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 100 years ago, where white community went into black so-called Wall Street, killed 300 people, burned all the buildings and all that. It is discrimination. It is basically violence created by people who don't believe in equality. And these are the kind of things we need to remind ourselves as to what inclusion is all about. There is very little gender equality at work. We all know that, even in 2021. Okay. If there is a young colleague, we automatically assume that he can't speak at certain meetings because he cannot have a good idea. That's not right. Okay. So to me, the core of human civilization is inclusion. Everybody is created equal. They all have capabilities. Some of us got lucky and others didn't find the right opportunity, right environment, right background, whatever. But they have it in them. Don't assume that they don't have it. If they are given the opportunity, they'll be equally good, perhaps better. So just learn to treat people with respect. Love them. Genuinely care for them. Give them helping hand. Encourage them. Support them. That's what inclusion is all about. You know. But look at in our society, we distinguish people based on race. In India, caste. I mean, what is shame for a nation of 1.4 billion people to have Dalits in the position they are in today? People won't drink water from them. I mean, what is it? They are human beings. Why do they have to clean toilet all the time? Why do we discriminate them? Why can't they go to temple? Just think about them. Put yourself in their shoes. So caste system in India is a classical example of lack of inclusion. Blacks in America is a classical example of exclusion in many ways. And it could be in many forms. It could be in financial forms, economic forms. Inequality could be in education, or exclusion could be in education, at work. So there are many dimensions to it. And if we build inclusive world, tensions will go down. All global conflicts in the past, all world wars, to me, had a lot to do with exclusion. India's independence movement was all about exclusion. We were excluded. We were treated, like slaves. Okay. What was British Raj? What was colonial mindset? We are better. I mean, come on. Get off that. In this world, everybody is equal.
Absolutely.
That is the core of democracy. All democracies are not inclusive. If democracies become inclusive, if authoritarian government become more inclusive, we will live in a much better world with lot more lasting peace. And that's my opinion in the book.
Fully agree with you. And I agree with you. I've always said that growth is a function of opportunity. It's not necessarily a function of talent. Because a lot of people have talent, but it's about they getting the right opportunity. So clearly you're right in what you say. Now let me get into, because the context of our discussion is your book. So I'm sticking to the book, otherwise I can go all over the place. You talk of human needs. You talk of the new economy. You talk India 3 days before the World Environment Day, which we celebrate on 5th June. You talk of conservation and sustainability. You also talk of non-violence, in your book. Why, you reinforce it, I think, in times of you're in the US, what's happening with the, we see that, black people are still being taken down by policemen, and, it does give you a sense of what's happening. And then I eventually want to come to the 10th chapter, which is a manifesto to redesign the world. I really want to focus on that. I want to ask you, sustainability has become very, very important for individuals, for organizations, for institutions and countries. Luckily, we have a president of the America that believes in sustainability, unlike the last president who thought climate change was a hoax and made no bones about saying that every now and then. President Biden has made sure that he brought in a senior, respected leader to be able to be the president's envoy on climate change. Now, tell us, how can we all embrace sustainability in a big way? Of course, in India, we're moving towards an EV movement. From an investing standpoint, ESG investing is becoming bigger and bigger. So give us a sense of what can we do as individuals to champion conservation and sustainability. And talk about the things you've talked about in this chapter in your book.
Sustainability is the key to better planet. In the book, I talk about the fact that there are two most important things in life: planet and people. There is no third thing. We must first take care of planet because we need planet. Planet doesn't need us. When we talk about taking care of planet, we mean fresh air, clean water, better environment, protecting our forest, our animals, our birds, our bees, all of that. Okay. And again, everything is interconnected. You can't take care of one and destroy the other one and expect the ecosystem to be balanced. So sustainability also requires understanding of the larger
context.
Then, during Corona crisis, staying at home for so many months, I realized that we tend to buy too many wrong things. We need to really be careful about what we consume. Just because we can afford doesn't mean we should just go on consuming. There is no need for me to have 60 suits. But that's the model we have created. No, there is no need for me to have 4 cars. But people take great pride in acquisition of more things, because that's how society judges you. And I think we need to realize that it is time to conserve and not consume. I mean, every t-shirt we wear takes hundreds of gallons of water. And when I know that I have 100 t-shirts, you wonder, is it really necessary? As an example. So I think conservation is the key to sustainability. And then think of durable products and not disposable products. Look at the amount of plastic garbage we have created in the ocean. Why do we have to have plastic bags for everything? You know, I remember in India, you could take this jolly to go shopping. And when I came to America, I was very impressed with the grocery bags. Now I realized that Zoli is a better answer than grocery bag. So I think sometimes we need to go back to fundamentals. So sustainability implies different things to different people. At the end of the day, it is about conservation. It is about improving environment. It is about global warming. It is about clean air, clean river, clean water, protection of our animals. And each one of us have a role to play in our own way. You know, I clean my house on a regular basis. Every day I sweep floor, and you know, one of the things I do as an engineer is analyze garbage. What is on the floor? And when you analyze these kinds of things, you begin to recognize that what a waste of a lot of things that we don't pay attention to. And wealthier we are, more garbage we create. And that has to change.
Fantastic.
So that's about
sustainability. You know, just this realization of being able to use more environment-friendly things in the way we store our stuff, reusable stuff, and we're doing a huge initiative on recycling. And someday I'll fill you in. And you know, fact that we should be more conscious of it, of what we do. We need so much. Less is more. One of the things that COVID has definitely put in our consciousness is that less is more. We can do with less. We don't have to go out and dine. We don't need that many clothes. You know, so clearly that's the one positive that has come out of COVID. Maybe 3, 4 for me. Now I want to get into your suggestions, the call to action in terms of how to redesign the world. Give us your playbook that you espouse in the book on how to redesign the world.
Well, I have listed 10 points. And I'm sure these 10 points don't cover everything. There could be 11, there could be 15. But from my perspective, I want to start with the fact that hyperconnectivity is going to change our world. It is not about technology. It is about content. It is about curation. It is about democratization of information, decentralization of decision making, and demonetization of services. So pay attention to what hyperconnectivity will do to everything around us, to our social life, to our education, health, governance, financial services, work, collaboration, cooperation. So to me, hyperconnectivity is the core of rethinking and redesigning the world. Then, democracy. We have to really modify and modernize our democracy to make it work for a large number of people. Today, it doesn't work for everybody. It works for rich, powerful, business, politicians, and bureaucracy. It is a club. It doesn't percolate down the real benefits of democracy to large number of people at the bottom of the pyramid, because democracy is operated in terms of top down and not bottom up. It is more centralized in many countries than decentralized. Democracy must mean inclusion. So you got to modify democracy also from the viewpoint of hyperconnectivity. How do you vote? How do you select candidates? What do your representatives do when they go to represent you? What input do you provide to them? How do you keep them on track? So there are lots of issues. Third, or second one is environment. I would say right after the hyperconnectivity, environment is on the top. Okay. Then comes democracy. Then economy. Today's economy works for the few. Today's economy creates more billionaires because we glorify rich. And they make money every way possible. Many are honest, but some cheat, some lie, some go to prison. And people are taught to extract value and not create value in the society. So economic model has to change. That GDP doesn't represent anything. You need gross environmental product, gross human developmental product. You need to really learn new ways to monetize your asset. When a lot of people say India doesn't have money, I look at all the temples and I said, look at all the money we have there. Look at all our art, look at all our culture, look at our music, look at our, sort of handicraft. Okay. How do you monetize a lot of these things? So economy is not just about the production as we see. Gross developmental product is not about what you produce. It is a lot more than what you produce. So I think we need a new version of economy, which is little more circular, bottom up, smaller enterprises to network, encouraging a lot of Indian clusters. So there is a whole new way of looking at capitalism. Then you got to have scientific mindset. You cannot have hoodoo science. I mean, look at what is going on today on corona crisis. People have all kinds of crazy ideas. Okay, I think let's listen to professionals. Let's be rational, logical, scientific about it. Let's understand that truth lies in science. Not that we have all the answers. But scientific mindset is very important to modern society. Then you need leadership. Today's leadership is not designed to meet the needs of the poor. It is really designed to meet the needs of the rich. So we need leaders like Gandhi, Mandela, Martin Luther King, who would look at the problems of the poor as the main challenge. Leadership also means character, values. You can't be a leader and lie. But that has become a common thing.
Unfortunately, that's the kind of leaders growing today.
People accept
across
it.
The world.
I don't understand people accept liars.
Though I must say, a lot of countries are looking for their wider, so to say, across the world. But
you need moral fiber. You need character. You need people who want to serve and not gain power to push one agenda or the other. You are leader of the people and not leader of one community or another, interest groups. And I think leadership is a major challenge in the world today. Okay. Then you need to worry about media. Media today has hijacked agenda in the favor of rich and famous and power, prestige, positions. Media doesn't really represent the voices of the people at the bottom of the pyramid. They have no voice. Media can be bought. You give more advertising money, you get better coverage. It's that simple. The other day, somebody wrote that, we can give you this coverage and it will cost you 50,000 rupees. I said, are you crazy? Why would I spend 50,000 rupees for any coverage? I don't need to do that. But that is considered a normal business model. You pay me and I'll make you rich and famous. Then comes really innovation. You got to innovate. If you don't innovate, you are not going to bring about generational change. And then institutional reforms. Our institutions today are not designed to meet the needs of tomorrow. World institutions have outlived its utility. World Bank don't mean the same thing today. IMF don't mean same thing. UN, we need to review, saying 75 years, do we need to restructure UN? We need to create new institutions in the world. We need to break these vertical silos. We have Minister of Shipping. What does it mean to have Minister of Shipping? Okay. Today, everything is networked. We need clear agenda. For example, hunger. For 50 years, we have been talking about eliminating hunger in the world. World Bank and everybody has spent billions and billions. Not much has happened. Because you don't have a mission on eliminating hunger. If you have a mission where all global experts come and say in 10 years we'll eliminate hunger, it can be done. You need in government a lot of mission-oriented tasks. You need organizational architectures which are task-oriented. You accomplish the task, break it up, and move on to another task. So these are all the challenges going forward. And all we can do is begin a new conversation. This book is not going to solve the world's problem. But if this book can begin a conversation on redesigning the world,
get people to think, change at a personal level,
and create a movement, a global movement to redesign the world. It means redesigning your schools, redesigning your hospital, redesigning your family hierarchy, redesigning your community, and ultimately redesigning the world with focus on 5 new things. Take democracy to inclusion.
Right.
So you got to be inclusive. Take human rights to human needs. So in the community, you got to make sure that your community human needs are taken care of. Take capitalism to new economy. Consumption to conservation and sustainability. And then finally, military to non-violence. It's very simple. Take the old 5 pillars, create new 5 pillars.
Absolutely.
And it is a continuum of the old design. It is not revolutionary, it's evolutionary. But you got to think, people have to think deep in their heart and change. The change has to come from within. And if enough of us change, I think we'll have a new world.
Thank you so much. I've certainly enjoyed talking to you, certainly enjoyed reading the book and, reinforcing some of the things I know and making me think. One of the questions that I want to ask you is, and you referred about how institutions and terminology of the past may not serve us in the future. What has worked for us till now may need to be reinvented, upgraded, whatever.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
one of the biggest thing is the GDP. That's for very long we use that as a indicator of the prosperity, of the health, of the progress that a country is making. Bhutan, for the last 2 decades, uses the happiness index. How happy are its citizens? Now, tell us what should give way post-corona. Clearly, GDP can't be the only indicator of the progress that a nation makes. What do you think should be the new source of benchmark?
There are two more important indicators. One is gross environmental product. Are you increasing GDP by cutting all your forests and selling wood? Are you increasing GDP by producing more guns and machine guns? So second part is the gross human development indicator. So I think with GDP, you need to understand that there are two other important elements related to planet and people. How are you taking care of those? If you really focus on those two along with GDP, then GDP has meaning. In the quote that Bobby Kennedy talks about in his speech, is what kind of an economy we have if GDP includes more prisons, more guns. Okay. Is that the increase in GDP that we want? I think that's a fundamental question. So I think we need to look at growth in different perspectives. Today, let's take a state. In one state, you have a huge increase in GDP because, let's say, there are more ports. There is oil industry, or there is a big car factory. GDP is good, but what has happened to people? People don't get enough nutrition. People are sick. There are no hospitals. Colleges are not easy to access. Is that GDP important? No, it's not. It helps maybe 5 big industrialists. The rest of the people are poor. So that can give you a completely different picture.
Thank you so much. There's a question from Pushkar Chauhan from ICICI Bank. He's head of ICICI Bank in Delhi. And
Yes.
he says, how do you think we can strengthen institutions and make them function independently?
First of all, there are 3 important things that we as a group have been debating in India right now. We meet every Thursday. And these 3 things are: 1, what is the role of civil society? I think role of civil society has changed in India in the last few years. We need our civil society to be up in front, free, more active. And government has really not helped civil society to come to the forefront. Second one is scientific temper. We need scientific temper. We cannot have all these swamis go and say, you take a bath in Ganga and coronavirus will go away. You can't do that. You can't talk about cow's urine and all this stuff and promote this. It's crazy. But people do that. Okay. And a lot of people get respect for doing it. And third is institution building. I think we have basically destroyed autonomy of our institutions with political control, power. And that requires strong leadership at institution level who can stand up and say, wait, this is not acceptable. But if they do that today, they'll be transferred, they'll be punished. So people give in to pressure. Whether it is judiciary, income tax office, election commissioner, university, hospital, business, civil society, each of these institutions must operate completely independently with their own autonomy, freedom, flexibility to serve people of India and not serve governments or authority. I mean, it's that simple. Okay, they have a job to play, they have a job to do, and they got to be responsible to the Constitution, to the people, and not to a person. It's a very fine balance. And it's not an easy thing to do. If you're not courageous, you give in very fast. If you're selfish, if you're interested in your own well-being as opposed to public good, you will give in faster. That's all there is to it.
Fantastic. I'll take one more question. Subramaniam, there are 3 or more questions, but Subramaniam Kusnur is asking, how can we get the millennials for India's greatest demographic dividend to join this much needed conservation and actively participate for for a better future? Subramaniam Kusnur does a lot of work in the water domain and
I know
water
Subbu well.
Yeah.
I know Subbu very well. Subbu is doing some good work on water, and I worked with him in the past. And thanks, Subbu, for asking that question. I think India's youth have a bigger role to play, not only in India, but globally. Indian youth could be really critical to this movement to redesign the world. Indian youth could be the change agent. But first, they have to talk about redesigning India. Okay. We also have same challenges on inclusion, on human needs, sustainability, new economy, and non-violence. Take these 5 areas. And if we Indian youth can champion these 5 areas, it'll be a great start. We not only need new conversation, we need new change agents.
Absolutely.
Without change agents, there is no change. Go ahead.
There's a question. Amit is listening to your response on Babas, and he said, Amit K, I don't know him. He's asked, sir, on the contrary, we are losing importance. We are losing the importance of ancient proven subjects like Ayurveda, which could have added more value in this COVID situation. How do you think Ayurveda could have been given more importance?
I run one of the largest Ayurveda institute in Bangalore called Transdisciplinary University. I started that along with Darshan Shankar 30 years ago to document all our herbal medicinal plants. Today it has 300 people, scientists, engineers. We have done a lot of work on Ayurveda. I just got a report from Transdisciplinary University about what works in COVID and what doesn't work. I think we need a discussion. We need to take scientific approach to it. It can't be hoodoo science saying it worked here for my mother-in-law, so it should be working for everybody. You got to convert that into science. And a lot of that is happening. We are doing it at Transdisciplinary University. I'm not ignoring traditional knowledge. It is great Indian heritage, but you got to put it in scientific terms. You cannot just take anecdotal examples and generalize it. And that work is going on. Just go Google Transdisciplinary University and you will learn more about it.
Thank you. There's one more comment and I'll take that comment. And there's a political question. MC is asking, do you think formation of governments a proportionate representation of all parties will be more democratic? I think the train has left the station on that. But there's one more question about how space technology can be used for the use of citizens in everyday use. How can they impact, space technology can impact the lives of citizens in a very granular way?
To me, space technology has a very large contribution to make in food, agriculture, remote sensing, monitoring crop, predicting weather patterns and effect on the food, to health. These two areas can benefit substantially from space technology. Of course, there are other areas also, like mapping of our resources. So you can go into ecology also, environment.
Wow.
So space technology has huge implications going forward, no question about it. But to me, that's part of connectivity. To me, that's part of hyperconnectivity. Space is a subset of hyperconnectivity. So when I talk about hyperconnectivity, I'm really talking about not just broadband, cell phone, computers, AI, big data, robotics. I'm also talking about satellite. I'm also talking about image processing. Okay. So it's a huge, huge area when we talk about hyperconnectivity.
Thank you so much. This was asked by Dr. Manoharan, who is the Pro Vice Chancellor of the AMET University in Chennai. Thank you, Dr. Manoharan. My last question, and yes, I've been thinking about asking you, Mr. Pitroda, you've done it all. You're a successful technocrat. You became an inventor. You brought India's telecom revolution into play, and where we are, you had a huge contribution through being an advisor to the then Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. You were able to usher into this new era. You've been a global, so to say, thinker who's been called upon to help in scientific endeavors. You've co-founded institutions. You've been a policymaker. You were a successful parent, a successful married life, connected to this country, have tried to bring about political change also. You've done it. You've written books. You've seen the world. You've done it all. Is there something left for Mr. Sam Pitroda to do? Is there something on his bucket list, on your bucket list, that you still want to accomplish?
Well, thank you for this question. It's an important question. I'm 79-year-old. As I said earlier, I was born in British Raj in 1942. My parents had 4th grade education. I come from a very poor family. I was born in Orissa in a tribal village. Didn't even have schools, so went to formal school in Gujarat in 5th grade. Studied Gandhian way of life very early, because those were the early days of independence. And there was this Gandhian fervor in the air, and everyone wanted to follow Gandhi and Gandhi's idea. And my life got molded with that background. I've seen poverty. I've seen richness. I've had 2 quadruple bypasses. I had cancer, so I've seen that also. And I would say I had a very interesting journey, and a lot of people have helped me in this journey. I've been married to my girlfriend for last 54 years. I've been in Chicago for 55. I have wonderful children. I have 3 great grandchildren. I have been lucky to be at the right place at the right time with the right support, whether it was Rajiv Gandhi or Manmohan Singh or others. I have benefited from gift from many great people in this world. So I'm thankful to them. I'm thankful to my family members, thankful to my friends. And I have lots of good friends in business, politics, economy, medicine, environment, science, you name it, psychiatrist. I don't think of this world as something to accomplish. I think of this world as whatever comes in front of you, see if you can help get it done. So I run 5 non-profit foundations. It is not to accomplish something. It is there because it needs to be done. Why do you write this book? Not so that you can say you wrote a book, accomplish something, because it needs to be done. If you don't do it, it won't get done. So you keep doing it. Sometimes you don't do the right things. Not that I have all the answers. I'm also learning in the process. So I think if one thing that remains to be done is more learning, making more friends, fulfilling a little more, enjoying the journey. And the process of learning goes on. I get up in the morning, and like today, I got up at 6 and I'll be busy till 12 every day. I don't have to be. I could retire and just not do anything, but that would be a boring thing to do. So I think to answer your question, I'm blessed with support from lots of people in my journey. I'm thankful to all of them, especially to people from India. They gave me an opportunity to work on the most interesting and exciting thing, to connect India. Rajiv Gandhi gave meaning to my life. Then Dr. Manmohan Singh gave me an opportunity to work on Knowledge Commission, innovation, Digital India. I worked on technology missions with Rajiv Gandhi. How do you get these opportunities? Then comes Darshan Shankar, who introduces me to Ayurveda 30 years ago. And we created this massive institution on Ayurveda in Bangalore. And people come. And some things work, some things don't work. I had my share of failures as well. But that's the journey we all go through. So it is not about what is remaining to be done. I want to spend now a little more time on taking this book's ideas to large number of people world over. I want global conversation on redesigning the world. I think this is the need of the hour. It is not about American vision of the world or Chinese vision of the world. It is about third vision of the world. It is about the vision which is embedded in networking. It is a vision which is embedded in public good. It is not about command and control. It is about collaboration, cooperation, co-creation, communication. And that's what I would like to do for next 5 years. So thank you, Dr. Annurag Batra. Really appreciate your organizing this. Thank you, Businessworld, for the opportunity. Look forward to remaining in touch. We can have more conversation on each of these topics. For example, I'm in discussions right now with a friend at Harvard University, where they want to have 6 conversations on the book. One on the overall book, and then one on inclusion, one on new economy, separate one on conservation and sustainability, human needs, and non-violence. I mean, that's the kind of things we need to take this message out. And I want other people to join. I don't have all the answers. I want to learn. I want to listen. Because a lot of people have a lot of good ideas. And I'm sure some of them will change my mind too. I'm open. Thank you.
This is called reverse mentoring. They learn a lot from you, but maybe from some people you learn something.
Of course.
Yeah.
Very
but
much.
thank you for being so humble. We're grateful to you for your time, for you writing the book, and making you really had a life which has made an impact on a lot of people through what you've done, the institutions that you created, and the policy.
I urge people to go look at this book. It is available on Amazon and others, and just go buy it and read it. It's not a very expensive
Absolutely.
book.
I will want to ask you to, but you did it before that. So thank you so much. This was Mr. Sam Pitroda talking about his latest book, which is about redesigning the world. It's a call for a new world order through action. It's a call for action. It's about a more inclusive world, a more environment-friendly world, a super hyper-connected world, and more importantly, really a world that thrives on collaboration, co-creation. So thank you, Mr. Pitroda, for this conversation with BW Businessworld. Those of you who missed it, you can watch it on the YouTube channel of BW Businessworld or read it in the next issue of BW Businessworld. Thank you so much. We wish you a
Thank you
good,
very
fun-filled day today again. You have a long day, so we let you go. All the best. We'll
Thanks.
be in touch. Thank you.